Tuckahoe's Government Access Channel 36 now presents coverage of the January 17th, 1990 Tuckahoe Urban Renewal Agency meeting. The chairman of the committee is John Callahan. Our cameraman director is Thomas Kennedy, filling in for Dewey Mercenti. We go now to the Tuckahoe Village Hall meeting room and the January 17th, 1990 Tuckahoe Urban Renewal Agency meeting.
The regular meeting of the Tuckahoe Urban Renewal Agency, meeting for the month of January. The record should indicate that all the commissioners are present, as is our executive director, Mr. Cacciola, and Mr. Horowitz is here on behalf of the redeveloper. But as we usually start off, Mike, could you give us your report?
Yeah, I'll give you first a report of what I find there today. After a long spell of cold weather, which somewhat slowed down the progress on the job, and I believe now that we're having better weather, it will make a better progress on the job. As I looked over the site there, I think the fellow I spoke to last wasn't there, and I was told that another fellow took over our duties over there. And I had gotten one complaint there where they're washing the trucks at the end of the drive that comes out to the street, and there was a lot of mud and a lot of water there. So I asked him before he went home tonight just to try to do something to clean it up. Some time ago, maybe even when O'Keefe was there, I asked them to put a jumper of asphalt along the curb so the trucks that were delivering any kind of material would not have such a strenuous load to pull over the thing there. Today now I noticed that a great part of that curbing there, which is village curbing, is all damaged. The next thing I'd like to report that they are starting to excavate for the retaining wall so that if the weather stays as it is now, that within at least a week they'll have quite a bit of it done to stop the erosion of the bank. And I also noticed today where some of the pavement up on Clinton Place is starting to show cracks. Not of a great magnitude, but enough to start worrying unless they progress on that wall. I believe that it might be dangerous in a very short future. I'm speaking of my experiences of what could happen if things aren't being taken care of. I also wish to report, because there's a great comment by the people in the village here that I come in contact. There was a big article in the paper. Tuckahoe building owners accused of running uninspected apartments. And then on a follow-up, I see that there was served court notices, so the court appearance postponed for the Tuckahoe builder. I guess it's going to be at the end of the month. Mr. Horowitz will be able to fill us in on that. But then there was a other article I kept it, but then I don't know, my wife must have took it and threw it away, because I always keep it around on a table in the kitchen. I don't move nothing, and she helps me moving things. There was some vandalism done down there. There was pilfering of tires, and from what I gather from some of the hearsay there, somebody got in there and brought some cement blocks in order to jack up a car and its four wheels, and the four wheels were taken. And the full extent of it, I don't know how much it was, other than what was in the paper, and I couldn't relate item by item. But today when I stopped there, I asked the guard there that was on duty. I also asked the maintenance man there about how many cars that are owned by the tenants that park up on the roof, and how many spaces would that be available below the roof parking, that maybe some arrangements could be made. By me saying this, I don't want to have anybody think that the workers on that project are getting down there to pull these things off. But nevertheless, if we can find that we can remove the cars from the roof that belong to the tenants and put them for safer keeping down in the lower part of the garage, and then some sort of a barrier should be placed on the ramp so and with a notice on it. Anybody, I remember when I was in the Navy, you couldn't go to country quarters, and it'd be posted out of bounds for ordinary personnel. And if I played a golf on a golf links, there was always the out of bounds, which penalized you a stroke. So what I like to see that for the future, immediate future, that this doesn't reoccur, because I believe it's a black eye not only to the village, but also for this agency that I think morally we are responsible to protect the people that are living there, of which I want to reiterate what I've said on August the 23rd, 1988, which says, if you read the article in the paper, and what happened today also, before I read this article, the Board of Health closed down the Swana there, whatever you call it, because it was unattended. The water was never changed. There's exposed wires, and I believe Ray could enlighten the board better than I can on it. But this is what I said in my report, subject the certificate of completion and the comments regarding. And this is the important one that I want you to remember. Gentlemen, enough is enough. While I admit to being an outspoken critic, I have nonetheless voted to give Hollandia time and concessions that they have sought. Promise after promise continued to be broken. They have no one to blame but themselves for the numerous delays and inconveniences that they have caused throughout their own poor management. I don't want to read the whole thing, and I believe all of us have gotten the comments that were made in a secret meeting, and how they promised to guarantee the completion of the project and to make all the repairs on the present building and the garage, which is quite a number of things that they submitted. But I also do want to state there at that special meeting, John, that nobody has the wrong opinion about this board. And this board voted for that completion certificate. The building inspector says that it was ready, and that he seen no problem in giving this certificate of completion. I believe you remember that, John?
I recall that, yes, Mike.
And now we find that all the time that elapsed on December the 30th, we find that there's still things that have to be done according to the building department. I favor whatever was done by Mr. Berardi, because he is trying his best to get the people that live there satisfied. And I believe if we can satisfy the people that live there, it'll be a good omen and a good advertisement for the rest of the apartments that have to be sold. Because I don't believe in hindering the sales of the apartments, because it's to no advantage to this village to have this project delayed because you cannot sell an apartment. When you cannot sell any apartment, we're not going to realize the full taxation that really needs. So therefore, tonight, I only hope that Mr. Hornstein has some insight to give us tonight upon what I just said, and how far and how quick we can get things straightened out. And before I give you the floor, Mr. Hornstein, I'm going to ask you, please try to help us. I don't want to see no more stuff in the paper about pilfering there. If I read this whole thing, I'll let you read it for yourself. One of the things that I was very forceful in saying that we should not allow the certificate of completion on the roof because we need that wall that was there and we need the space to work from. And I think that if we can resolve that part and you get a barrier put there and with a sign, no trespassing, because if you haven't got a sign there, there's no summons that can be given. So no matter who gets caught beyond that out of bounds sign, then we can deal with it, or the police department can deal with it. And please, let's try to have more control on that mud pack that's up during the driveway there. I was also promised that they were going to put item 4 down at least halfway to where the project is from the street. And if we had that down now, we wouldn't have that condition of the water or the mud that's being carried out to the street, especially down at the bottom of Maynard Street. I must commend Mr. Cacciola also because during the summer, at least when the mud dried out, he used to send his equipment with the agreement with Northrop that they paid for the expense of keeping it clean. Now that we came through a very serious part of the winter, we might be lucky enough to have good sunshine. We don't like to have it too dusty over there because the people just don't care for that kind of stuff. All right, that's the end of my report.
All right, thank you, Mike. Perhaps now Mr. Horowitz could address some of the issues Commissioner Pinto has raised and then make whatever report he has to make himself concerning progress. Maybe we could just, one item at a time, put forward to Mr. Horowitz of the things that the Commissioner Pinto raised in no particular order either. With regard to the concerns about the cracking in Clinton Place, Commissioner Pinto's concern that that wall be gotten in place as soon as possible. Where are we with that?
Some of the footings have been poured already. There's another pour scheduled for 12:30 tomorrow. They're working diligently to get that retaining wall up as rapidly as possible. That work will proceed continuously regardless of weather. If there's cold weather, we are using air entraining agents and cold weather protection in order to see that those pours can go continuously. So that sequence has started on the construction of the retaining wall and will continue. And that will just be a continuous operation until that's complete to stabilize that entire. I should also mention along those lines, your concern about the crushed curb is certainly a legitimate one, but I should point out to you that within our plans, we are replacing the entire curb along there as well as a sidewalk up there. That's being done at the developer's expense.
Mike, I'm not sure exactly what your proposal was with regard to the parking. Was it not to allow cars on the roof or not to allow?
No,
what was it?
Because as you remember how I said that there will be cramped for space while they're working on the townhouses. If you all remember what I said, and that we should not give the certificate of completion unless that was excluded from the that one thing, because, and then I felt that there shouldn't be any cars there because the car can be damaged by the workers, and then they got a big rhubarb of who did it and who didn't do it and who seen it and who didn't see it. And now I'm asking that, if possible at all, if the tenants' cars can be removed to the lower sections. I'm pretty sure you have quite a number of sections that are not being used because they're for handicap. As I understand, there's only one handicapped person there that has one car. So there must be enough space but temporarily to utilize them so that we can protect that whole area from being pilfered of any kind and damages done to the cars.
You mean while the townhouses are being constructed?
Right, right.
Do you know how many cars are being parked on the roof, Mike?
Well, I don't know. I tried to get a number of them today. I don't know either.
Is it all the tents parking or is that the workers?
Or just can't they be requested to park down below until the construction is completed?
The spaces in the garage are reserved spaces that go with the units, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm not knowledgeable as to the methods that was used to assign parking spaces there, but I can certainly relay this concern back to the management.
Were all those parking spaces taken?
I don't know.
Would Mr. Catrufo and Mr. Filiberti know, has that been an issue that's been raised with the developer by the owners of the various units?
As far as the parking on the inside, I don't think there's enough parking. Reserve parking indoors to handle the cars that are currently parked on the roof.
Are the cars inside from unit owners?
The cars inside are for people, whether they're owners or residents, who rent from owners who purchase the parking space.
But they're from people living in the building?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Mike, that might be an issue. They're just the case of there just not being enough spaces inside.
Well, I say, if we can accommodate, how many handicap space you got there? I didn't count them, but you got quite a few.
9.
Got 9? So you deduct 9 there that are empty now, temporarily. And we consolidate the parking closer to the ramp. And then build a protection for that part of the roof. I think then we're gaining something. We're not losing anything. But the way it is right now, they can walk up or down that driveway. They can do whatever they want. Nobody walks through there. Because if I ask the guy who says, "Oh, my car was damaged too," I said, "Well, how many times do you use your car?" He says, "I don't use it that much." So that proves that they get enough allowance for people to go in there and do what they want to do, because nobody that works there goes in and out of there unless Ray goes in and out of there.
Mr. Filiberti.
Yeah, I'm a little late. I jumped in on this halfway through. If the problem is the security, not parking on the roof is not going to address that, because if someone had access to the roof, they could still gain access to the main level of the garage to the ramp. And being that there's no, monitoring equipment to monitor the ramp, there's no way to determine whether or not somebody walked up down the entire length of the roof.
No, I think you say, I'm talking about the same ramp you're talking about. If you put a blockade there somehow and have a sign placed there and make it out of bounds for anybody that gets caught, then and you have a sign there, no trespassing, violators will be prosecuted. And when you got a sign, no trespassing, whether they work there or not, it'll be a valid thing for the police department to control it a little better. If somebody's caught as seeing there, then your guard can, and something will be done. But the way it is now is like freelancing, do what you want over there. Because the guy that sits at the desk, he don't go and look in the garage, that's for sure.
Well, that's
The other maintenance man, I think he's afraid to go in the garage.
Well, as far as the security, the guard at the desk, it's technically his description is to stay at the desk. If he was to be patrolling the areas, if we had a problem in the building, he wouldn't be at the guard's desk to answer any, to answer a call if somebody would call up. Now, whether or not I have been in touch with the sponsor, and I have asked them to install, after the last problem last week, I asked them to install a camera that would wire the doors on the garage, both stairwells in the garage to buzz at the front desk. And I didn't think that was a great expense, and I felt that it would go along with alleviate the security, because there's a for fire reasons, the stairway was erected in the back, quite some time ago. And anybody, especially now that the area isn't even fenced off anymore, anybody has access, anybody that parks in the municipal parking lot has access to that stairwell, can gain access to the roof. But at least if we, electrically wired the doors and connected it to the guard's desk, he would be alerted if somebody tried to gain access to the stairs. And if we had a monitor, since we already have the television camera at the guard's desk in the front, if we had a monitor to monitor the ramp, okay, that would kill two birds with one stone. I don't know as far as allowing people on the roof to park in the low area, the only way that I could really agree with that is if there would be assigned spaces on a temporary basis. Because if we just tell the residents that don't own spaces that they can now park below, I'm going to come home someday and somebody's going to be in my spot.
No, I didn't say that. I said to utilize the unassigned spaces.
Well,
I didn't say that they're going to use your space.
Well, no, they would
That's
have
why
to
I
be
asked how many spaces are there that we can see to facilitate some of the people that are parking on the roof. And I don't care how many cameras you got. It does not serve the purpose of law. To serve the purpose of law, you have to have a barricade with a sign saying no trespassers, violators will be prosecuted. That's what I'm after.
Well, I don't think that is going to solve the problem.
Oh, yes, it will. Oh, yeah, a lot more than your camera.
If you believe...
Because the police department can give you a summons if you make a complaint to guys in property that he violated the no trespassing.
And the police
Now, you're not a lawyer and I'm not a lawyer, but I know through experience.
The police department also has the authority to arrest if it's a crime that doesn't keep people from breaking the law.
But don't you understand? You've got to see them commit the crime, but this other way, they're trespassing. It's easy to bring them in.
All right, Mike, I'm sure if the unit owner was over there wanted the developer to post such a sign, he'd do it. Obviously, it's not a costly thing to take care of, so I think we'll leave that between the unit owners and the developer. As far as the actual reassigning some spaces on a temporary basis, I think that's something they should work out among themselves if they can. As Mr. Filiberti says, we might not be talking about too many empty spaces in the lower levels of the garage. I don't think there are enough, from what he says, to take care of the need on the, or what you perceive as the need on the upper level. Mr. Horowitz, I'm sorry to just let you sort of be hanging out there. Perhaps before we go to the townhouses, you can address what progress has been made since our last meeting on the open issues in the high-rise building and in the garage.
I believe since the last meeting, there's been a meeting between the sponsors and the occupants of the building, and their engineer who has surveyed and the premises and produced a report which the sponsor has reviewed. We've helped him and are addressing the various items within that. Some of the items were clear and easily resolved. Others are still the subject of some ongoing discussion between the sponsor and the occupant group.
The pool is open.
Pool is open. The deck and fireproofing of the steel is awaiting warmer weather and coordination with the total deck development, which we expect to take place in the early spring.
About the atrium, the leaks in the atrium, have they been repaired?
As far as I know, they are. I've seen it repainted, and unless some new ones have developed. Ray reports that there's a crack in the glass and there's a leak. That will be addressed.
What other major issues are open on the high-rise?
There is a problem of some water penetration at some of the balconies, which we're all aware of, and we have determined what causes it, and the remedial work involved requires a coating to go on those balconies and a sealant to go at a joint that's apparent there. These are materials that cannot be applied in cold weather. They don't bond and set properly. But they've been specified, and we have reviewed this with the occupants, and then this will take place as soon as the weather breaks.
All right, maybe you could bring us up to date now on the townhouses, how we're coming along with those.
Townhouses are right on schedule. I think the best thing is to go out and look, and you can see they are framing up to the second floor now. We had anticipated completion in June, and we have no reason to adjust that anticipation right now. Although we've had some bad weather, the work has been able to progress in spite of it, and is moving along on schedule.
Any questions from any of the commissioners from Mr. Horowitz?
Commissioner Pinto.
From my observation, if we're going to have this good weather for a while, nobody can tell me that this thing ain't going to go beyond the point which I agreed to give you an extension from of. It looks to me like a job of piecemealing. I think there's room for extra help up there now. If you go over there, John, you can see how far a man has to walk for a piece of steel, wade through all kinds of mud, and the time it takes to bring down just what he needs for one day's work. I think they should get more people to work there in order to expedite it more efficiently and everything else. When it comes to the townhouses, I talked about the steel. It's only my educated observation I'm talking about, Mr. Horowitz. I'm pretty sure that two guys carrying all that steel that you need for a day's job isn't what I would call sufficient amount of help. Because once that subgrade is in there for your footing, it takes time. Just to walk with it. You know how far they got to walk with it? Quite a bit, and wade through that mud. I watched them there for 2 hours today, wading through there. The guy with the shovel, he's doing a pretty good job. Very careful man. And I could say one thing, John that's there, the union representative, he's very cognizant of what could happen. He's right there, and he's making sure that his men are protected. But the thing is, if we can expedite it a little faster by employing more help, maybe we can get out of that dangerous situation. When it comes to the townhouses, I don't think you have a sufficient amount of men in order to at least come close to the deadline date of when it's supposed to be completed. I like to overextend my observation. I'm only hoping that you can finish before the date that you have, so I can celebrate it with you. But if I have to wait any extra time, I hope I'm around to celebrate it. Now that's not too much of a request, I hope.
What about the size of the crews? Is that the general contractor who's in there now?
The general contractor's in there. Nortuck is not building this.
Who's the general contractor? of the
Mattel.
townhouses?
Mattel Contracting. And I must tell you, our observation is they're doing an excellent job.
Where are they located?
Their headquarters are in the Bronx. They've done work in Tuckahoe here. They're an experienced, knowledgeable, highly capable contractor. I think they're doing a wonderful job.
Do they have a completion date with liquidated damages?
They have a completion date. We do not have a liquidated damages in it, though.
Excuse me?
We have a completion date.
Right.
There are no liquidated damages provisions in it.
And what's the completion date?
In June.
Okay, any other questions?
Just one last,
Commissioner
Mike,
Carabelli.
ask Larry one question. When they're putting the steel up, they left about 3 or 4 pieces, which we explain why that's been set aside.
Yeah. That's at the south end.
That's correct.
There are, I believe, 3 or 4 pieces of steel that were not set because in order to have access to the lower portion of the new garage level, there was a grade beam at the end which was not poured until recently. That beam had to be in place in order to receive the steel that would sit on top of it. Now that they've completed the below deck area, that grade beam was poured and the forms were just stripped on it. You can see that in place now, which you would see it as the end wall of the garage. The steel now will be erected on that, but that concrete has to cure to achieve its full strength, which takes 28 days. And it's only at that point that the steel will be placed on that. And there are a few pieces of precast concrete that also will go on top of that steel, which are also not in place, because it's awaiting the cure of the grade beam, which is just a matter of time.
Commissioner Bonsi, do you have something?
No.
Anything else? Okay.
You're talking about the front of the Columbus Avenue side, right? Of course, in the rear there, they have to leave an opening so that they can drop their material for the garage. As I understand, all the pipe work is done. They have to get stone in there and they have to get concrete in there.
All the underground piping is in place. The crushed stone is now in
The only
place.
thing that has to be done then is subgraded, lay the stone down, and then concrete.
That's been done. The
That's all
concrete
gonna
pour
be
is
done.
scheduled for tomorrow.
That's all going to be done from this other end, the other end of the...
That concrete is pumped,
but there's an opening there that has to be
That's right.
planked and everything yet.
but that concrete will be pumped in.
If Carmen goes over there, he'll know why that big hole is there, so that they could get the supplies in.
So as a matter of fact, the pour for the slab below there, I believe is scheduled for Monday. But the reinforcing is in place, the subgrade is all in, it's been compacted, the stone is in, the drainage and piping is all in place already now.
Because as I understand, there's still an elevation of 4 feet that has to be removed doing it, pretty near the whole length of the
On the surface road.
driveway.
Right, that's correct.
Larry, also, if I may interrupt, Mike, can we find some other means, or perhaps expedite improving the fence where the stairs in question on the south end of the building, which the workers use to ascend to the roof deck there? Can they reinforce that with new fencing and secure it more? Because the way it is now, it's very easily accessible. Now, since they poured that wall, the portion of the wall where what we're discussing about, maybe if they secure that fence, probably may possibly alleviate some of the problems.
You may want to the municipal parking lot in that area.
Yeah, that area there, right, that's
Yeah, I
there.
think that's a good idea.
You just close that fence, and I think probably it'll help out immensely.
I think one day in the near future, I think what you ought to do is ask the street department to allow you at least 3 or 4 foot to barricade on Clinton Place while the men are working there, so there'll be no vibration that will create a more dangerous position to those men that are working on the bottom of that cliff. Because, you know, it don't take much vibration to work something loose, especially if these trucks are not told not to go through there after their deliveries. Think that's possible, Tony?
If they need them, we can supply them.
Because, you know, if they run too close to the edge of
Oh, sure.
that hill, there ain't much of a thing left there. And as I understand, there's some stone that has to be removed there too, and that one particular face, which is not so comfortable.
No, that's not correct, Commissioner. The stone, the rock that's in place there is not going to be removed.
I said one place there is going to be removed. Now, I talked to the engineer there. Huh? I'm pretty sure that he knows what's going to be doing there. I think he's doing a damn good job myself, that engineer.
We have the best engineers around on that. And one of the things they developed earlier today was that we were going to drill into that stone rather than try and remove it and use it as a base for the foundation. And tomorrow they'll be drilling in, setting rods in, and pouring directly on it.
There's one spot that has to be uncovered lower than the road. I'm talking about toward the north end of the drive. They got it already uncovered, and it's in line outside the wall.
That's right. The wall does not, that is on the road side of the wall.
No. Down at this end here where they're getting ready to pour now, that wall is behind, that rock is behind the wall. And as you go north there, they uncovered some stone there today that has to be removed before they can put a footing in there so it will not protrude through the wall and into the roadway. It isn't much, but it's enough if he has to go banging on it, I tell you. So he ain't going to be there for a while, so you don't have to worry about the vibration that's going to be there because they should have part of the wall on the south side pretty well finished.
Okay, do you have anything else to add, Mr. Horowitz?
No, I don't.
Either Mr. Catrufo or Mr. Filiberti, questions, comments?
Well, it seems like part of the question of the perimeter fencing around the project was addressed, but it goes way beyond that. You talked about the fact that people are using the rooftop parking of the garage. There's construction debris all over the place. There's not securing of a fence at the south wall. There is no fence at all. That's how I came here today. I went down the wooden stairs and jumped off and across the parking lot. That's not only a risk for injury, it's also a risk for security. You go up on the top of the hill, you got a ravine where they're excavating, and you got plastic snow fence. I don't think that's going to hold back a car. I was up there the other night, and there was ice all over the curve going around there. And 3 feet over, you have plastic fence. Okay? I've never seen a construction job in Tuckahoe, let alone any place else, operate like this without perimeter fencing around the project to safeguard the public. It's ridiculous. I already spoke to the building department, and John Filiberti and I were there. The village has been put on notice. I've discussed it with the mayor. He agreed in a conversation with me tonight that it's ridiculous. And believe me, if something happens, we're not going to be the only ones that are going to get sued. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people named.
Are you aware of the issue Mr. Catrufo's raising, exactly what he's talking about?
I believe you're talking about the upper rim of Clinton Place.
Plastic snow fence.
Yeah, which is not meant to hold back cars.
Prevents anybody from going over.
If you went to Main Street, where there's car traffic and pedestrian traffic, you had 12 by 12 railroad ties with heavy barricades to keep people from going through with a car into the hole. Here we have a hole again. Now, they're not going to say that's negligence if a car goes through a plastic fence? I would think that they would.
I think my proposal, it'll solve the dangerous part of it. I didn't say what he should use there for barricade. He still has to get permission from the highway department, which Mr. Cacciolo will, I believe, agree that the village has to be protected because they'll be part of the suit on negligence. And if Mr. Cacciolo knows, he'd want the same kind of safety construction in order to give him that safety angle. I'm pretty sure he's not going to put just direction cones there. He has to put something there that's going to be of a magnitude that's going to protect the people who are working there all day long. And he can't just say, well, you know, we didn't have time to do it. This should have been thought of. I was going to bring this up last meeting, only I fell asleep. now it's not too late yet. Because I'm pretty sure with extra rain coming down, them cracks are gonna widen itself. So by putting that barrier up on Clinton Place is gonna solve a lot of the trouble. Then we don't have to worry about a car going over that thing, because if he gets down in front of Conti's house there, he'll have just enough passage over there without trucks or nothing else, and it'll make it safer there on Clinton Place. That's the part I'm worried about, and I believe everybody that's working there will tell you the same thing. I'm glad you substantiate what I said. I think that now that Mr. Horowitz has been put on notice, part of public record here, I think that's his first priority tomorrow morning, is to get somebody there that knows how to barricade it in a safe manner, not just put a toothpick there, but something that's going to be substantial for the protection of the dangers that it may present.
Well, I'm also concerned about that.
You mean down the bottom of the hill?
Also the bottom, down
Yeah.
on the garage roof. That whole west side of the project is accessible to the public, okay? People who live there, kids go there skateboarding in the afternoon when the crews go home. There's rebar, construction materials, and there's absolutely no barricade, no plywood barricade or whatever.
Well, that's why I
to restrict
suggested
the
cut it
access
off.
to the project. That's putting the public at risk. Okay, they erected steel, and anybody could have walked right under the steel.
That's right. Well, that's why I'm saying if we could have eliminate all the cars, but as long as you can't eliminate, even if you didn't eliminate one car, then you could redesign their parking there, that they'll be parked in one group and have a barrier around it, and with a sign, no trespassing, because that's the important thing.
But if that can't be accomplished, at the very least, there should be a plywood barrier 10 feet out from the wall, the whole length of the garage, restricting any access to the construction materials, working from overhead of any construction work or whatever. That's my concern as an owner.
Yeah.
Okay, that should be your concern as an official. If somebody gets hurt, all hell's gonna break loose. Okay? I've never seen a construction. Now, you go in the city, you don't have a job with no plywood around it. You know that for a fact.
Well, here I say it's freelancing. You do what you want on a roof. Whether you're a tenant or whether you're a worker, whether you're just a guy looking for something. And this way here, by putting that barrier, putting that fence up, and also remember, I recommend that sign because that way there can be better controlled. It at least warns a person for trespassing, and the law protects the landowner if anybody there is not supposed to be there. It's going to get a summons and it can be prosecuted.
Go ahead, Mike.
I think now we understand that, Mr. Horowitz, don't we, about these barricades?
And I should also point out to you that I'd like to point out that up until now, there has only been a low chain link fence along Clinton Place, which would have never stopped any cars, that the present plans, which are under construction now, will put in a highway-type barricade, which would indeed restrain cars if they were to jump the curb there. That's what's being built now, which was never there before. That's what we're doing.
Well, what's going to happen on the garage roof where people are walking to their cars every day when you guys are working?
I think you've got a very good point there, and it should be protected.
It's
I agree.
It's a legitimate thing to request.
Absolutely right.
Maybe what we'll do is we'll wait till maybe a guy throws a piece of steel rebar or something, and maybe it'll hit somebody.
But nobody should be on
Absolutely
our
right. I
roof
agree with you.
unless they're working and protected by compensation insurance. That's number one.
Well, insurance
And the way it is, it's at random. Anybody can walk there without any protection, get hurt, and then not only you going to be sued, but this agency could be sued. We've already been sued for a nonsensical thing too already, because somebody found a way to sue the agency. We're supposed to give the proper instructions, especially in the safety nets. Because if you got OSHA there, he'd be a lot harder on you. And I think what I'd like to see you do now is, as soon as you can, even sooner than that, if you can start tomorrow to get a permit from Tony's office and barricade that part up on Clinton Place. so that we can protect the people who are going to use this street and protect the people that live on our street. And that's not a hard request. And Tony can be over there to see how much road you want to cut off, and then he could get in touch with the police department, at least for them to police that area. It's really dangerous, believe me what I'm
I
telling you.
agree. I think it's an excellent
You
suggestion.
know, it's a good 25 foot, at least 30 foot now where the excavations are. If, God forbid, if that thing slides down, somebody's going to get killed down the bottom of that pile of dirt.
All right. Thanks, Mike. I assume you brought these concerns to the building department, Mr. Petrucco, Filiberti? Okay. Because as you know, if there are any specific violations over there, it's the building department's job to enforce them.
Well, that'd be enough to get us a specific answer on that. We might be discussing it for Mr. Scott.
So, but I'm glad you brought it up here because apparently at least some of these issues have made an impression on Mr. Horowitz, and I'm sure he'll look into them, especially the safety on the roof.
Certainly.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Filiberti?
I put together a little list of, some of our concerns, which I just wanted to present to the Urban Renewal Agency. I didn't have the opportunity to make copies. I could make copies tomorrow and fax them to you. But I just wanted to leave this with you, nothing that has to be resolved today. The other thing is, as far as today is January 17th, I believe the sponsor has until sometime in July to complete the townhouses. I don't see the need to be concerned about whether or not they complete them, because I think that they've been given more than enough time on the project to complete the apartment building and to complete the townhouses. And I think it's very cut and dry what has to be done in July if the townhouses aren't complete. There's no need to ask, whether or not, what's going to happen if they're not complete. If they're not complete, I think the Urban Renewal Agency only has one recourse. They've been given 12-month extension, and, I think the village and the Urban Renewal Agency should seriously consider, using whatever means possible to ensure that it's done before July, and if it's not, they should exercise their options after the deadline. But that's all I have to say about the completion of the townhouse.
Okay. All right, we'll see that these are attached to the minutes. Thank you. Anything else? No? Tony, do you have anything?
Mr. Filiberti, can I ask you one question? One time you brought up the proposition about, was there an organization now of tenant and the owner there now? Is that in place yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're satisfied with that, right?
Is there an organization in the,
I thought that according to the setup there, you have an association to oversee and overlook, whatever you want to call it, of tenant and the owner.
okay, there is a board of managers.
That's it.
Okay, there are 3 members of the board of managers. There are 2 sponsor representatives, and there's myself as a representative of the owners in the building. One of my major complaints, and I have expressed this to Mr. Bernstein, is that I have not been kept apprised of any of the work that's going on in the building, any of the funds that are being expended, any of the contracts that are being signed, any of the, the work that's being done on the townhouses, updated on what's going to be completed at, when and where. Okay, so as far as, I am a member of the Board of Managers in name only. I have absolutely no authority. I mean, they proceed with the work as they deem fit. They do control it. I don't argue that point. But they have not kept me appraised of what's been going on since I was elected back in February.
Well, that's why I've asked you, you see, because what little enforcing that we can do to help the situation. You heard my remarks. I'm only hoping that they will finish on time. And it's no secret that I allowed him more time than he was entitled to. And I remember one of the members of this board making a big by saying to Mr. Bernstein, you better accept what Mr. Pinto's giving you because you're not going to get any more from it. Right now, Mr. Callahan?
Yep.
Right, so, it's our wish to get this thing completed so that we can dissolve this board. And I will not be satisfied with any innuendos or any promises that are going to be broken. You heard my remarks that I made in 1988. We're still hearing from the newspaper what's going on. You also heard me state that the village has nothing to gain by not letting the apartments to be sold under the original plan as a hurting proposition. I only feel one resentment since this certificate has been given, because we were promised that Spadanudo was going to be on our job, and for some reason he had been replaced. I cannot make a judgment whether we'd have been this far or not as far had Spadanudo been there. It's only the promises that hurt sometimes, that hurt more than a bad tongue, because if promises are kept, everybody's happy. I'm pretty sure that if that project went according to her, you wouldn't be here tonight. You'd be at home celebrating and hoping, and like I would feel, well, I stay home with the old lady tonight because I haven't got much to say about the project. And I believe that's the consensus of this board. And I believe everyone on this board is with you 100%. I believe Mr. Horowitz feels that way too, is to do his damnedest to get the project finished on time.
I just think, you know...
And I believe, if you allow me to remind you of what I said, that I believe, in my educated opinion, that there's room for extra help there so it can be expedited a little bit faster. To me, it looks like piecework right now.
I think...
There should be a better organization there. As Ray had stated there just a while ago, that nobody knows the full direction that it's got to go.
Okay, I think I speak for the majority of the owners in the building when I say that, you know, it's going to be a very happy day for all of us when the townhouses are complete and sold, and the apartment building is 100%, you know, sold, and we take control of the building. It's going to be a very happy day, I think, for Mr. Bernstein and for myself when this project is finished. But I do want to reiterate that back in 1988, when the certificate of completion was issued on the apartment building, there were, two provisions set up to ensure, one of the reasons that the certificate of completion was given, was based on there were two reasons. It was based on the completion of the swimming pool and some of the common areas, and the racquetball and the tennis courts, etc. And also, there was a date given for the completion of the townhouses. Now, just to remind everybody, the swimming pool just opened in December of 1989. Now, they missed that deadline by a year and 2 months. And we as owners don't want to see the same thing happen to the townhouses. We want them complete, we want them completed on schedule, and we want to take over the building. We want the sponsor, basically to go on his merry way. And we think we'll be able to accomplish a lot more once we take over the board 100%. We won't have instances, the last time a meeting was held that the sponsor was present with the owners was when I was elected to the Board of Managers in February. And, they haven't done a very good job of keeping the owners up to date on what's going on. And they're not, like you say, they don't have that many people working on the townhouse project that makes it look like they're that concerned about finishing by the deadline. naturally, if I was concerned about finishing something in July, I'd make sure that I was finished with it a month and a half early, just in case I ran into a problem. Okay, to have a deadline that Mr. Horowitz says he expects it to be complete sometime in June, if I was, in charge of the project and I wanted to make sure something was done in July by the deadline you had given them, which was a very gracious 12-month extension, I would be very concerned about cutting it that close. And my only concern that I want to express to you, although it is 5 months early, 6 months early, is that the Urban Renewal Agency has been very generous to them in giving them the 12-month extension to try to see to it that it was complete. I think a lot of the problems that we have in the apartment building are at the expense of the townhouses. There seemed to be, there were people working on the townhouses. Maybe if there was, some work being done on some of the questions that I've, brought up with the condominium itself, with the apartment building itself, maybe if they weren't so busy working on the townhouses, which is a big question mark on whether or not they are, some of the items in the apartment building could have been addressed and would have been completed by now. A year and a half after having moved in, to still address some of the items for better weather, to still push some of the things back until better weather comes. So my only concern, and the only thing that I just wanted to mention tonight, is that, July is a big date as far as the townhouses go. I think you've been very generous to them already. I don't see the need to be generous in the future. I think that, enough pressure should be exerted on them to finish by July. And I think they can do it. They're already working on the second floor. If they made the attempt, it would be finished. I don't think that we should just be able to drag something on forever and ever and ever, because you're betting on the graciousness of the Urban Renewal Agency to give you another extension. Extensions don't do anybody any favors. If the building would have been complete on time, I would have been living there in 1987. Okay, according to the prospectus, that's when it was supposed to be ready. It's 1990. So, like I said, it's early. It's only January the 17th. We've had some decent weather. If they want to finish it in July, I think they can do it. But I do think that you should, reconsider any ideas that you might be having if it comes close of granting an extension, because I don't think you're being fair to either the village, to yourselves, or to the people that are already living in the building. I think the only person you end up being fair to is the sponsor, and I think we've been very fair to him already.
All right. I appreciate your coming tonight and at least, joining in on what your beliefs are, because without input from the feeling of the tenants there, we don't know how far we can aggravate the speed up of the project, and I'm pretty sure that Mr. Horowitz will stand by his promise to do whatever he can to expedite this. I'd rather see Mr. Horowitz here to talk to than Mr. Bernstein or Nat Parrish. At least he's the architect of record, and I'm pretty sure he understands that. But I don't want you to feel that in any way that I'm not going to say what I think is right, because I'm very outspoken. And also, the greatest part of the delay was because it was so dangerous of the spot there, they could not blast when they were putting the walls for the garage. And they had to do it with a toothpick in order to remove the stone to get it below grade. And I know for a fact that engineer was not concerned in his day's pay, but the concern of the well-built building. So that took, I say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I might have set it back a little bit. But then the winter came, it got so cold, and I didn't want to work. Maybe I would have stayed home myself. But right now, if they got good weather, I'm begging Mr. Horowitz to see the contractor will employ more help in order to expedite and maybe make up some of the lost time, if there was any lost time. And Mr. Horowitz, I know you're a man of your word, very honorable with me, and I believe the whole organization has been patient, because I really abused them. And I can't ask for no more than use them to use their better discretion in getting this thing finished. And let's not change any more horses. All right?
Okay, Mike,
That's all I got to say.
right, just for those who may be watching, they want to leave certain impressions. It's never been the intention of the board, as you probably know, to be generous to the developer. It's always been our intention to get the job finished. Realizing that we could only push so far. If at times we had declared them in default, we might still be sitting. We might be in court right now without what's having occurred. In return for each concession, they did have to make certain payments, which will eventually be used for improvements in the village. At the time, they were given their last extension, they were told, and I'm sure they remember it well, because it wasn't in equivocal terms that there would be no more extensions. So, come July 1, I certainly hope they're finished, because I can't see this board giving any more extensions. We have taken into consideration in the past that it was a difficult lot to build on. It was a hard lot to get developers to come in with a proposal that the board wanted to go ahead with. Other developers had pulled out in the past. So hopefully the end of this thing will come sometime this summer, and everything will be finished, and the developer will be out of Tuckahoe, and the unit owners will take control. At what point do you assume a majority of the board? After how many units or so?
I've been given an approximate date that it's 1 year from the date that the 51% of the complex is sold, which I believe that it will come approximately August. I haven't been given a definite answer from the attorney to respond to on that, but it's approximately August.
And then you'll take control of the board, the unit owners. Tony, do you have anything for us?
I believe you have a voucher.
All right, I'll move payment of the stenographer's voucher for the November 15th, 1989 meeting in the amount of $125. Is there a second?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anything else?
And we have a note that is due on the 24th of January for $22,630.16. And we have a balance in the checking account of $334.95, which should be enough for 2 months. And I suggest that we roll over the note for the $22,000 for another 30 days.
Mr. Treasurer?
Yep. It's me.
No objection from the board? That's fine. All right. John, thanks for coming tonight and giving us your input. Mr. Horowitz, thanks. Thank you, Larry. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Anybody else? Mr. Chairman, just a moment. Since we received the minutes late, I'd like to...
Hold on, Mike. Hold on.
I'd like to defer the reading defer these minutes until the next meeting, and we'll vote upon that.
Okay, fine. If there's no objection, we'll do that. Is there anything else?
That's all.
Motion to
I'm
adjourn?
just going to ask you before I adopt the minutes, so he said you're horrible.
Yeah, we'll wait till the next meeting. Okay.
I will second the motion.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. You've been watching coverage of the January 17th, 1990 Tuckahoe Urban Renewal Agency meeting. The meeting was broadcast live here on Cable Channel 36, as are all the Urban Renewal and Tuckahoe Village Board meetings. Your cameraman director was Thomas Kennedy, filling in for Dewey Macenti, and this has been a Village of Tuckahoe cable presentation.